I moved out of state a while ago, and I was able to find a game store close to where I live now. And it has been fun, and there are very friendly people in the store, but there are a few things I don't like. I don't know if it's my paranoia or if it's a real problem. To begin with, everyone knows each other and has their own in-group jokes and whatnot, and this is seen more in the roleplay, and when I try to participate, they just ignore me or don't listen to me, and this happens a lot, even with the Dungeon Master. When I say I do an action or a roll or something, they tell me, "You didn't tell me you were doing this."
Hey, DM, my character's just standing around doing nothing. I'd like to attack the dragon. We are currently in a battle. I would like to not just stand around, please. How was I supposed to know that? You have to tell me what your character is doing, okay? Otherwise, your character is not going to do anything. Dude, I am telling you what I want to do. Right now, at this very moment. What are you, stupid? Yes, he is! What? Your Dungeon Master's mind has been devoured by Zorka, the intellect devourer. Their mind is not what it used to be. Oh, thank God. I just thought my DM was an idiot. I'm glad to know that there's some supernatural explanation. Well, I mean, your DM was already, like, before Zorka came by, your DM was already pretty stupid. I'm actually a representative of Zorka, the intellect devourer. We were looking for a refund, actually, on your DM's brain. It really was not what we were expecting. Is there, like, some paperwork I gotta sign? Oh, yeah, actually, can you just sign, no problem, man, I got you.
But I always tell them, and it's connected to another problem of being interrupted a lot. I always try to remain silent and respect the turn of my other teammates when it's their turn, but when I try and do something myself, they interrupt me, and I remain silent until they finish talking. I don't mind small talk or jokes, but when it drags out that long, it does get annoying sometimes. And finally, I feel like I'm not making a connection with the table I'm playing with. There are some people that I do talk to and get along with, but they're at other tables. What can I do to resolve this? I want to set my limits, but I don't want to sound aggressive or rude. I'm afraid they won't listen to me because I'm relatively new in the shop. Look, I've never played a game store, but quite frankly, this is not the table you should be playing with. If another table is more your speed, I would try going over there. But this table, yeah, it's not it. I don't play tabletop role-playing games myself because of what I'm about to write about, but I am an avid fiction writer, and I love using tabletop role-playing game sourcebooks for inspiration, and I play a lot of CRPG versions of tabletop role-playing games on PC, such as playing Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, right now, in fact. As for my horror story, well, it's a short one, but yeah. Back in my early 20s, I'm 38 at the time of writing this for the record, I dated a girl I met in high school, and we broke up after a few years. It was on good terms, and we stayed friends for a while afterwards, and eventually drifted apart, as we both moved on with our lives. During this time, she moved on to another city, and we kept in touch via the internet. One day, she invited me to a 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons game she won. Oh, right, I almost forgot to do it. She invited me to a 4th edition. It's kind of awkward because I was rewatching some of Matt Colville's videos, and my beloved Flea Mortals is apparently based on a 4th edition. So, can I even keep doing this running gag on good consciousness? I don't know. I don't even know who I am. Anyway, yeah, it's a 4th edition game. She wanted a DM. I had always been intrigued by Dungeons & Dragons, but I'm autistic and have social anxiety, so I never tried it in person. But I find I can handle interactions over the internet a lot easier than face-to-face, so I actually accepted her offer. There were 4 of us, but at this time I only remembered my character and one other, who was as follows. I played a tiefling gladiator, and another friend played a human avenger. Nice. I forgot who the other 2 were. This was a long time ago. I think one was a monk, but yeah, we played over Skype. Again, this was a long time ago. And session 0 was just me and the Avenger, who I was already friends with outside of Dungeons & Dragons. She was a friend I made online who actually lives overseas in the UK. I'm American myself. We were all writers, and how it would work is we'd use voice chat for a lot of our character stuff and table talk, and write out what our characters did in Skype chat. Session 0 goes well enough, and we have some fun times doing a heist thing, getting captured by the guards early on. Then comes the actual session 1. Wait, the fun time with the guards was in session 1? Look, if you want to do these prequel sessions immediately after session 0, that's perfectly cool with me, but just make sure to remember the actual session 0, you know? Don't leave session 0 at the clothes aisle in Target, alright? Don't forget about him. He's gonna be lonely there. Anyway, session 1, and the other 2 players join us at this point. One I didn't know all that well, but the other one was the Dungeon Master's roommates. We knew each other from our old World of Warcraft guild, and in fact, that's how the DM knew them to begin with, and how they were able to move from my city to theirs in the first place. Roommate, however, was not fond of me at all. Every single post I tried to do, they would nitpick on what I said, call me out for whatever I wrote, and it was clear that for whatever reason, they weren't fond of me being there. I forget exactly what the grievance was, as we had known each other a good bit in World of Warcraft, but yeah, it was just everything. Okay, dude, be honest, alright? Be honest. Did you roll for need on their bested slot? Alright? Because if you did that, I'm gonna be honest, kinda get it. Everything I said was wrong to this guy, even it was something as simple as him saying, my character wants to check out the basement, and I said, I'll follow him down there. He would shoot back with, I didn't say he was checking out, I said he wanted to check it out. I think part of it might have been that I was the noob. This was my first D&D game ever. Heck, it was my first tabletop role-playing game ever. And I was really nervous and probably making a lot of mistakes. Me being autistic likely didn't help with either of those things too. I was socially awkward in the best situations. The session ended early on because I had to go to work, and it was hard to schedule much time to do so since I worked third shifts, the other two worked seconds. I forget what the DM worked at the time, so the other friend was again in the UK, which is a 5 to 8 hour time difference depending on where you are. After our first session with all 4 of us, I get a private message from the Dungeon Master who said, so, roommate says he's gonna drop out the game if you come back.
My name is Mizu Sakai, and I have sworn vengeance against you. That's funny, man. I don't even know who you are. That's funny to me too, because I also don't know who you are. Wait, you also don't know who I am? I mean, I think we met like one time, but yeah, I mean, we're like loose acquaintances, I guess. Wait, but then why'd you swear eternal vengeance against me? Like you barely know who I am. What did I even do to you, dude? I don't really remember, honestly. Okay, yeah, that's not the least bit concerning. You have no idea. I must concur with that assessment. My name doesn't matter. I am a representative of Zorka, the Intellect Devourer, and I think that you might be up for some recompensation based on... Who the hell is that guy? I don't know. Anyway, I've sworn eternal vengeance against you, and I will...
I really felt confused and upset. I had no idea what I'd done to upset this guy so badly. So I told her that since he's her roommate and she has to literally live with this guy, I didn't want to risk making her life more difficult, and I just dropped out of the friggin' game. It may not sound like much, but I haven't played a tabletop role-playing game since then, in person or via the internet. I still really enjoy reading the source books. Again, they make great idea buckets for my writing, and I love CRPGs. I've played through Shadowrun Returns, Dragonfall, Hong Kong, both Pillars of Eternity games, Pathfinder, Watrar, and Warhammer Rogue Trader. But actually playing in a group, I've had a couple people offer to let me join their groups, and yeah, it makes you remember this game, and it kills my desire to do so. Maybe someday, but while that game was short, it never really left me. I completely understand how one bad experience like this can absolutely ruin a game. Yeah, it's not the worst thing we've ever read about, but at the end of the day, this is a leisurely activity you do for fun. If somebody acts like this much of a prick when you're new to the game, yeah, you're not really incentivized to try the activity out again, are ya? I mean, I've had a handful of bad raids in Destiny, and it's made me way more paranoid about joining LFG groups whenever I want to play. This is especially pertinent when you're brand new to something. This guy doesn't have some big love for tabletop role-playing games besides CRPGs. This person has no reason to push through the bad to get to the good, so why would they waste their time? It makes 100% sense to me. I would totally encourage you to continue to look for a good group, especially if they're friends that are inviting you. But if you want to move on and just do other things that you enjoy, I think that's perfectly respectable as well. First, some context. This campaign started out as just my brother and the Dungeon Master, who would play at a nearby game store. When I found out, I asked to join, as I had heard of Dungeons & Dragons but had never been able to play. They agreed and let me join. For the next month or so, it would be me and my brother, and maybe one of my brother's friends who would play an NPC in our group. This was until the Dungeon Master decided to suddenly add a bunch of people into our group without telling me or my brother. We did not find out about this until we were driving to the game store, and when I say a few people, I mean we went from 2 to 3 people to 10 to 11. Guys, why do you guys keep doing this, okay? It's hard to run for 10 people. Stop doing it! This created a bunch of problems. Really?
Wow, proves you're not coming.
On top of the many other problems, but that's a story for another time, on to the final session. It started with my brother asking the DM if we could pick earlier in the day, as he had a big project he needed to finish that night. The Dungeon Master agreed and said it was not a big problem. He stated that he had to leave at 8:30, which our DM agreed to. So the session started and the group was attacked by a large orc fortress or something, not really sure what it was, with an army that we brought. This involved us having to use mass combat rules. The main problem was most of us barely knew how to play D&D, let alone how to use mass combat rules. And the Dungeon Master did teach us how to play using mass combat rules and simply told us to look up the rules before the session. This lack of knowledge and the number of players led to combat taking a long time. When 8:30 p.m. rolled around, we had just breached the fortress, and our characters were getting ready to storm it. Me and my brother thought this was a great place to leave off and pick up next week, but our Dungeon Master had other ideas. This is generally what was said.
As you guys reach the precipice of the castle grounds after your epic battle against the orcish hordes, we're going to continue today's session for no reason at all. Let's go, baby. Let's. Oh, dude, come on. It's 8:30, man. I think this would be a really good place to stop. But we can't stop now. Why not, man? It's 8:30. I have this big project to finish. But if we stop now, if you leave, it will ruin the entire campaign. Please, tell you what. I'll wrap it up. Just give me an hour and a half, okay? Just please. Okay, fine. It just better not take more than an hour and a half.
Spoiler, it did not. It was mostly quiet, as I was really hungry, by the way. So our group enters a large room with a large pool of oil in the middle of the room. Suddenly, one of our members runs to a far corner of the room and hides, refusing to tell us why. Turns out he was friends with the Dungeon Master and knew what was coming next. It was obvious that we needed to light the oil on fire?
I thought it was obvious.
How is it obvious?
We do this, and a dragon comes out of it, and it's on fire. One of our players uses a spell to put the dragon out, but the DM says this causes the room to fill with steam, making it difficult for us to even see the dang dragon. So we try to vent out the room, but the Dungeon Master says this will take time. So this leads to a few rounds of the group just standing around, getting attacked by the dragon, who then hide in the steam as we tried and failed to find him. So I say I got 24 on my perception, so I should be able to see the dragon. And the DM says no, it rolled higher on its stealth check. This fight dragged on for a while until the dragon landed and hit the group with its breath weapon. We all make a high dex check or take 50 plus damage. And by the way, we're all level 5 or 6 at the time. You know, if you're level 5 or 6, I mean, a young black dragon is CR 7, and they do an average of 49 damage on their breath attack, so that might actually fit the bill. What I'm trying to say is, skillish. I'm kidding. Me and a few others failed this check and went down, while the others are just badly hurt. It was then that the Dungeon Master read what the effect of the breath weapon was, stating that anyone that got down by the breath weapon would not be making death saving throws and immediately become a shadow minion of the dragon. Okay, yeah, definitely not a skill issue. Look, that was what I didn't say anything, okay? Don't hate me, okay? The Dungeon Master then let the rest of the group get away, but the damage was done. I was very angry, as I felt my character had been unfairly killed, and I'm also very hungry. My brother was very angry, as he still needed to finish his project, and it's now past 10 p.m. The Dungeon Master then called my brother lazy or something along that line, saying he should play less video games over the weekend, and instead be working on his project. My brother had been working on the project all weekend long. We both left the store and the campaign. We never played with him again, but we did see him once in a while at the game store. The campaign fell apart shortly after we left. TLDR, Dungeon Master has a session drag on way too long and puts the party in an impossible fight, causing the campaign to come to an end. Ugh, man, that bit at the end pisses me off. Like, how dare you not spend every second of your leisure time working on your project so that you can spend time with me? God, seriously, I hate that garbage. But in any case, this Dungeon Master clearly did not do a great job balancing this encounter. A dragon, a young dragon, at this level might actually be a realistic threat that the party could possibly overcome. Now, I'm not saying a CR7 Black Dragon would be easily downed by a level 6 party, but again, it's possible. However, the DM clearly made some modifications, probably making this thing into some kind of shadow dragon that was way too overpowered. Look, when you are homebrewing monsters, there's a lot that you have to think about, and removing death saving throws entirely is one of those things that you need to be very, 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 very careful of. And clearly, the DM is not skilled enough to make a tight encounter work. Thrilling combat is hard to facilitate if you're not experienced in game design. There's nothing wrong with ripping hard encounters from people like Matt Colville, professional game designers who are just gonna probably do a better job than you. However, this DM decided to do it on their own, and it resulted in not great stuff. For some context, my dad is the one who got me first into Dungeons & Dragons, and I've played in games with him for years now. I'm in my 30s and started playing when I was around 11. He's in his mid-70s and has been playing and running games longer than I've been alive. Needless to say, he's very old school. He runs 2nd edition. When 3rd edition came out, he played a couple sessions with someone else DMing, and basically decided based on that one experience that it was terrible. He's never even tried 3.5 or 5th edition. That wouldn't be so bad on its own. Everyone has different tastes after all, but he's very openly disparaging towards newer editions and by extension condescending and rude to anyone who plays and enjoys them. He complains about how hard it is to find players and gets annoyed with me when I point out that it's due to running an older edition that a smaller pool of people are gonna be interested in playing. I mean, being a dick probably also doesn't help.
I despise anyone who plays a different edition than me. I find them all to be infidels, munchkins even. They're disgusting and awful and... Where is everybody? Why won't anyone play D&D with me? You there! Why would anyone play D&D with me? I don't understand! Well maybe it's because, you know, if you yell and scream about how much you hate a group of people, that group of people are probably not going to be incentivized to try out whatever you're selling them. Even if what you're selling them is pretty cool. No, that doesn't make any... Ow! Ah, my foot!
Personally, I have played a couple campaigns in both 3.5 and 5th edition briefly, but those games fell apart due to other reasons I'll likely share later. Despite that, there are a lot of things about the systems that I really enjoy, especially the freedom to get more creative with character building. There are also things that are just streamlined or make things less needlessly confusing. I've tried to talk about this with him, if only to explain the appeal and try to get him to be less caustic towards people who like it, but it's gone nowhere. I know I'm insanely late to the party, but I also just recently got into watching Critical Role, and I think the effect of that and hearing thoughts from other DMs online has just made some things stick out even more. It's a combination of Dad getting worse and seeing how much better some things could be handled. In our current campaign, we're playing a custom adventure he wrote, which I played as part of years back. I agreed to playing a second character because we really didn't have any frontline fighter types. Since then, 2 other players have all started playing 2 characters, one of whom is playing for the first time. Man, only time I've seen someone play 2 characters at the same time was Sam Riegel, and it was kind of weird when he did it. And he's pretty good at this game. Anyone ever done it and had fun? The party consists of 5 players and a total of 8 characters. From that previous run, I also know that at least one DMPC will join us later for part of the adventure, bringing it up to 9. To make things even worse, the new guy is playing 2 different mages, and my dad uses a custom magic system, which makes things even more confusing for him. It's pretty obvious that the same player would have preferred something closer to an artificer from the way he's been trying to play his initial character. He was informed that black powder doesn't work in Dad's world, basically just because Dad said so. The player has been trying to find clever solutions ever since, and I'm dreading that Dad will just shoot down. Black powder, shoot down. Funny. Yeah, shoot down any idea he comes up with. I'm afraid this may end up ruining his enjoyment of the game in the long run. The frustration for me also started with character creation. I had to argue to get my first character, a chaotic good drow, priestess of Elastari, into the game because he was insisting that only a lawful good character would have any reason to break from drow society. After numerous debates, canon explanations, and examples, I finally got him to relent. Man, it's like having a conversation with one of those uptight Star Wars fans. Except it's your dad. You can't get out of the conversation. Then came my fighter character. She was initially designed to be a chaotic neutral berserker with a pit fighter backstory. I knew from previous experience that he wouldn't allow a chaotic neutral character, so I had to swipe her alignment to chaotic good. But that was just the start. He informed me that he wasn't allowing kits, the additional options that allowed certain specialty subclasses like berserkers, cavaliers, etc., forcing me to play her as a standard fighter class. This is despite both allowing them in previous campaigns he ran and playing a kit class frequently himself. He later allowed for a kit to be used by another player in the group in order to play a dwarven entertainer because the rules didn't allow for a dwarven bard, which was the player's original plan. We didn't have any roleplay to set up or introduce our characters, and every chance for downtime interactions since then would have essentially just been done with fast forwarding. The player running the ranger and I had both mentioned having things we wanted to do back in the village that was serving as our home base, but Dad literally went straight from us resting there in the evening to when you get back to the dungeon entrance the next morning, without any chance to do anything at all. So at this point, I feel like I have one character I had to change to the point where she's not the same character I created, and another I specifically made due to thinking she would be interesting from a role-playing and story standpoint, which hasn't happened. I actually tried to discuss that issue with my dad, and his response was the lack of opportunity for character moments was on us?
Thank you, sir, for saving our party. We can't thank you enough. You cut that out, like, you're rushing us through all the good roleplay. This is your fault, okay? Like, I'm not doing anything that's rushing your roleplay. It's on you, man, to create these moments. We are creating those moments. You just keep on destroying them with your fast...
I explained the problem with not having any time between dungeon crawling or combat, and I thought he understood where I was coming from until the last session happened. We do have a tendency to chit-chat a bit before we start gaming in earnest, but despite Dad having somewhere he needed to be later, and everyone knowing that we would need to have a shorter session, he sat there, just talking and telling stories for over, 2 hours! 2 hours of Dad stories, woo! Everyone was doodling, playing with dice, checking their phones, etc., but he just kept going. I finally pointed out how long he'd been going, and he still continued for another 15 minutes or so. By the end, we had about 20 minutes of actual game time. We started and ended in the middle of the same fight we had been midway through the session before our last, meaning next time will be the third session this battle against a small group of orcs has been happening. I know, this sounds pretty ridiculous, but I also know my dad can get incredibly stubborn and petty, so I can't help but wonder if this last session was some kind of punishment aimed at me for what he may have been seeing as undermining his authority or complaining about his methods as a dungeon master. Either way, the bottom line is I'm not having fun anymore, and I'm debating whether or not to bow out. Unfortunately, the situation is one where if I quit, I don't know if the group would continue. I don't want to mess it up for the others because I'm feeling frustrated. But I don't think there's any way to fix this, so it's fun instead of frustrating for me. Wait, so it's fun instead of... I think you meant frustrating instead of fun. Otherwise, we're gonna think you're a masochist. In any case, I don't think you're a masochist, and I think your dad is just not the DM for you. In fact, they don't sound like a really good DM in general. Look, I'm sure your dad is great, but at the end of the day, if you are that concerned about your dad punishing you over something so innocuous, I think that is a bit concerning. You know your dad way better than I ever will, right? So based on that account, I think it's enough that I would want to leave the game as well. Look, you should not continue in this game just because of sunk cost fallacy and wanting to make sure everyone else has fun. You gotta take care of yourself sometimes. And if you leaving is enough to collapse the entire structure of the game through your dad's frustration and anger, well, that's on your dad, not on you. Look, I'm a good Asian boy who sticks by the family and tradition, but even to a guy like me, this is a bit much. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed this episode featuring a crazy combat, you might enjoy a little flip on that. A character who thought dealing any damage to her would be sexism. It's linked in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe to Crispy Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. Stealthy dragon to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.
I despise anyone. I should probably put on this.